Ben 10.
Ben 10.
Ben 10. Ben 10. Ben 10. Ben 10. Ben 10.
Ben 10.
Ben 10.
Welcome to the next week's installment of the Extremely Low Budget podcast. This week is Indiana Jones franchise, and joining us today are the three amigos.
I like it. Get surprised, everybody, because Alex is here, I'm here, and guess who's not here once again? Derek. Boom. Surprised, bitches. Dalton's here.
We've been switching it up
Derek's
this month
not. Yeah, we
with
have.
the rotation.
It's been a bit wanky.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we'll be talking about Indiana Jones 1 through 4, and at the end we're going to determine if it is the best franchise ever. You don't know this, but last week we decided that Marvel Phase 1 was the best franchise ever, so that's what it's up against.
What was that up against last week?
The Glass Trilogy, and then we voted MCU as better than the Glass Trilogy.
Okay.
Or at least Phase 1.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So now we're going to see what Indy can do.
We'll see.
So the first movie in the Indiana Jones franchise is called Raiders of the Lost Ark. Not Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, just Raiders of the Lost Ark.
That's important. We'll get to that later.
Very important. Wait, stick around till the end. Big surprises. I'm not going to get super in-depth with the plot, but here's what it's about. It's about Indiana Jones on the hunt to find the Ark of the Covenant. Boom. That's the flippin'...
That is good enough for me. You got the good side, Indiana Jones. You got the bad side of the Nazis.
Nazis.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, that's all you need to know.
Really, that is. There's a couple key characters in this movie. You got Indy, and you've got...
Mariana?
Marianne.
I thought it was Mariana.
Mariana. That sounds
Something
right.
like
Yes,
that.
it's yes.
Yes. Two important franchise characters.
Sure.
Anyone else in this movie?
The Nazis?
Well, of course. You know who else is in this movie? Is Doc Ock. Did you catch Doc Ock in this movie?
Can't say I remember Doc Ock.
You didn't? I knew it when I saw him.
I didn't either.
You don't recognize him? It was the actor's very first movie ever was Indiana Jones, and he plays the guy that goes into the temple at the beginning with him.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, that's Doc Ock.
The
guy who dies right away.
Yeah.
Huh.
He tries to steal the idol and he
I
gets,
can see it
impaled by
now.
those spikes. Yeah,
I can see it now, but I guess
looks darker in Indiana Jones.
He's very much so.
He was just a young lass. But yeah.
Wow. It was a big break.
Yeah. Yeah, I really think that just what works, what doesn't about this movie. Let's just talk about our favorite scenes.
I gotta say, I can't remember the whole franchise being as visually unappealing as it was.
Really?
In a lot of ways. Because I think I remember the last time watching it as a kid, so I didn't really care so much. Yeah. And I noticed the obvious green screens or the... But then again, it was, 81? I mean, it's, it's old, but I guess they still could have done a little better. I don't know what their budget was.
So you thought that it wasn't visually appealing?
Not in, entirely, just parts of it. Some scenes and whatnot.
Yeah.
It wasn't as bad in this one as it was in Tempel of Doom.
Really? You thought Tempel of Doom was less appealing?
There was some really bad effects on that one.
Okay, so when you say visually appealing, to me, I think palettes overall.
No, palettes. I would
locations.
argue that Temple of Doom is better than Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes.
But if I'm talking about general green screen work and stuff, then Temple of Doom is pretty bad.
Definitely fair. How do you do?
Thank you.
Doesn't use garage door.
We waited for you to use the garage door. We were sitting here quiet forever.
I made sure not to because I knew.
I told you.
Freaking pranked us though, because we sat here, we listened to you drag the goddamn can up, and then we were like, all right, he'll use that garage any second now. Any second it'll happen. Then I heard the door shut. I was like, oh, he fucking didn't do it. We could have just kept talking.
I brought my keys so that I wouldn't have to use the garage door. I wasn't supposed to get home for like another hour and a half, but I wound up having to get home. I got to get home early.
Why?
Are you high? What is going on?
I was so tired and sick. I'm just gonna go to sleep. I'm gonna eat a chicken pot pie and then I'm gonna pass out.
Yes, I.
I'll piss in a cup for you, Alex. So you can drink it and tell me if I'm
Alright.
drugs.
I'm gonna need a semen and a stool sample too.
Stool sample.
And a semen.
But you're okay with drinking it though. That wasn't.
It just has to be in the same cup.
Just stir it with a little spoon.
Which
and
movie are you guys on?
The first one.
I like
We've hardly
this
talked
one.
about it.
I think it's a good one.
Fucking you didn't finish it.
No, I didn't. But I've finished it before.
A long time ago. You never liked any of these.
I don't like the next three. Well, as a kid, I remember liking the second one the most, but I don't know why. I don't know why I like the second one the most. I like this first one. I've seen it on TV like last year, and then I watched the first half of it again. It's a good one.
And that's
Well, there
it
you
for
have it, boys.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. Let's go
On to
to
the
the
next.
next one.
That's my thoughts. I don't know. I'll hang out for a minute while my chicken pot pie cooks.
We were talking
Color
about
palette
color
and
palette.
green screens. It sounded like.
Yeah. I said that the green screen is worse in Temple of Doom, and it was harder to watch some of those scenes.
Because they were a bit too ambitious or something.
The green screen work was just really bad.
Yeah, there was only a few times I felt like it was like blatantly bad, but overall, I mean, I give movies like this a bit of a pass because they did what they could. It's like when you watch the old Superman movies, you go, yep, yeah, that doesn't look fantastic. It's like very clear that they're superimposed over floating clouds and shit, but what are you gonna do? It's what they had to work with. So, what works, what doesn't about the first Indiana Jones? What are the good bits? Obviously, the intro is like the most iconic bit of the entire franchise.
Mm-hmm.
You get some pretty brutal deaths in there.
Yes.
In
the first one, yeah, the plane part.
where he's like boxing the guy and he steps backwards into the propeller.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Not to mention the impaling at the beginning.
Yep.
And their faces melting. So
Yeah, the ghost.
I was surprised this movie's only PG, but this was a time before PG-13 was a rating. In fact,
What?
Indiana...
This was the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Indy 1.
Indy 2, the second movie, was the reason PG-13 became a rating.
Wow.
Because they were going to rate that movie R, and Steven Spielberg contacted the NAACP, or no, that's not it.
NPAA.
NPAA. The NPAA, and he was like, can we have a rating in between PG and R? And they were like, we'll see what we can do, bud. And so
That's
Indiana
crazy.
Jones 2
That
is
is-
the reason why PG-13 exists. Which is crazy to me because I felt like the first one was far more graphic than the second one. But once it was explained in the like behind the scenes, I get why.
Why?
I mean, there's a whole like child enslaving cult that
That's a
rapes
good
children
point.
and
Yeah, that-
Right.
Yeah, you
sacrifices, rips people's hearts out of their chest and whatnot. So
get to see that little 11-year-old Chinese boy get whipped.
yeah,
So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there's Nazis in the first one.
yeah. I felt like the first one was just like more graphic.
yeah,
me.
just having Nazis in your movie in general doesn't give it a higher rating. It's whether the Nazis are or not.
Oh god, you can't say that. This is YouTube.
Can you censor it? Because I think it's funnier when you censor it and
They
you have to
don't
guess
know
what
what
you
he
said.
What did Alex say? That'll be the question.
So it's like it's not like they, and then it's a big censor bar.
That'll be the thing. That'll be the question at the end of the podcast. Instead of like, what was your favorite scene from Indiana Jones?
What do you think,
It
Alex?
wasn't even that bad.
What horrible racist?
Oh, that's awesome.
I'll see what I can do. That means I'll actually have to pay attention while I edit this one.
I think if you just like write down the timestamp of when it was, you can go in like the YouTube editor and do it, can't you?
Yeah, you could.
I'll just get a beeping sound effect.
You could, yeah. That should be easy to find. I'm sure
Yeah.
people use it all the time.
A couple other iconic indie moments aside from the entire like first 5 minutes, which by the way was the only bit of Indiana Jones that I even remembered at all.
Of this
Like,
movie?
Really?
Of
all of them? That's all
There's
you remember?
two scenes in the entire franchise that I remembered, and it was this one and the part in the fourth one when the nuclear bomb goes off and Indiana Jones puts himself in the refrigerator.
Mm-hmm.
Only 2 scenes in the entire franchise I remembered.
I
Really?
remember a fair amount of the fourth movie, sadly.
Yeah,
I
me
don't
too.
know why that one's like so ingrained in my mind, but it is.
It's
And
newer.
then
Yeah, it was just
Yeah.
like the one,
It's
probably the
one
most
we saw
recent
in
one I ever
theaters.
watched was
Yeah.
that one.
No, and then I remember a fair amount of this movie from because I've seen it on TV. But like this bit, I always think comes in the next movie, that intro. So like when I think about the first movie, I always think about like
Oh, well,
you know, there's
the melting face. I remember that. as
Well, the melting faces. I remember like the chase where they put the girl in the basket and he's trying to find her,
Mhm.
Marion or whatever. When he shoots that dude with the sword.
There's
That
okay,
that
so
I
there
think
were,
that
like,
was
3 parts,
the
but
that was
yeah.
the iconic moment that I liked
Yeah.
from this. Is the ninja guy's like, I'm gonna whoop your ass, and then he just shoots him.
Yeah.
I love that.
My favorite was when the truck explodes and you think she's in the back of it.
It's
It's like,
all
oh my
sad.
god!
It takes a while for them to reveal that she's not dead too, though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They let that one simmer. Haha, get it? Because it's a fire.
You are tired.
Derek's here, everybody.
His cameo is the greatest cameo of all time.
I still haven't found any proof that he's not high right now.
I was just mentioning we keep derailing so hard, but
Sorry.
It's just a very general action movie, not a whole lot of story with it, which I
Right.
think is pretty good.
yeah,
I like sexy Harrison Ford professor at the beginning of the film.
Yes.
don't we all?
I actually think that's a good look for him, the professor look he has at the start of the film.
I think that and the start of the second one when he's in that white suit, he goes in. Yeah, I think those are both good indie looks.
Mm-hmm.
I always forget that he's a teacher too.
And then there's always that one scene in the movie you're like, oh yeah.
Except for the second one, didn't have it.
No,
The other 3 did.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
I like the human characters. There's no I don't know why I said
Here's
it like that,
what I
'cause
do
there's
wanna
no,
say.
Like,
Marion.
yeah.
Mariana.
Is
It might be that. I don't know.
or is
I
it
might be wrong.
Marion?
I swear it was like
I think it's
Mariana.
Marion.
It's Marion.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I know it was like, I thought it was Marianne, and then like he said it, and I was like, that's not
It's
Marianne.
Marion. She's a good female character
Marion.
There you
that
go.
doesn't get
Marion.
enough credit, I don't think.
I
she's-
agree.
She's never one of those female characters that people are like, yeah, she's a badass, but she is.
She
Hmm.
thinks it.
And she
Yeah,
wasn't
behind
annoying
the
like
scenes.
the damsel in distress in Temple of Doom.
Yes.
You know,
Oh my
I
goodness.
didn't even know
Yes.
there was a female lead
Yeah.
in Temple.
Willie.
Everyone hated that character. The actress talked about it, and she's like, I'm a super hardcore like feminist. You know, I believe in like the woman empowerment stuff, and
If that
I'm,
was
like, a
recent, I
single
can
mom.
believe that she changed since '84.
Yeah.
But if that was right after the movie, I'd be like, that's a little weird.
Well, she said even back then she was like an activist, and she
That
was
was
like,
weird.
I did the movie, and I don't know, I was just having fun with it. I didn't have any issues with it, but everyone hated me because I was like, I was just the damsel in distress. But she was like, I was just having fun with it, so.
Mhm.
But I did think it. I was like, yeah, she's a pretty useless character. She just
Yeah.
screams a lot.
Yeah, it was just annoying.
Yeah. But this is the first movie, Raiders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just some comparison.
Yes. Yes, Marion. I thought she was a good character.
Yeah,
I liked
liked
her in this movie. I didn't like her in the fourth one.
I very vaguely remember her in the fourth one. I remember she shows up and it's like a big deal and she's like a main character, but like
From like the halfway point.
she shows up in like the
becomes main
camp or
character.
whatever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But like I can't tell you a single thing she does in the movie.
Well, I can because I watched it.
Fair enough.
Other things I liked about this movie, obviously, I think that the
Lack of Shia LaBeouf always helps.
absolutely. I thought that the set designs were fantastic.
They were
had some
good.
really nice, elaborate sets, and I thought that the props were really good. I really like the look of the Ark of the Covenant.
Mm-hmm.
I think that looks really nice.
I didn't realize, I'll say, how all of Indy's cliches are shoehorned into the first 7 minutes of this movie. You know?
What do you mean?
Like, the first 7 minutes of this movie, you have, he needs his hat, he needs his whip, and he does
They don't ever show that he needs his hat.
He does the... They don't... I
No,
think there's a scene when it falls
I
off.
thought
Yeah,
there
when he grabs
was.
it.
I thought there was, but there wasn't in the first part of it.
Isn't it?
Oh.
I think they only do it in the
whip?
second
He
one.
does it
It's his
with
whip.
his
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I thought it was going to be his hat, but it ended up being his whip.
yeah,
and I was
in
like,
the,
I
in
swear
the
to God,
second
it would've
movie,
been-
it's the hat.
Yeah.
He
But,
whips
yeah.
the gun out of a dude's hand, and then they show, like, he's a badass. He'll take all these poisonous spiders and just kind of pluck them off the guy. And also, he hates snakes. Like, all
The snake
Yeah.
part was weird because he gets in the plane
And then it's there.
and it's like his pet snake, and he's like, "I hate snakes," and he's like, "Oh, lighten up, buddy,and that was like the
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah.
That's weird. They could have done
He
that a
says,
different way.
grow a backbone, is
Yeah.
what he says.
Okay.
I just found that interesting that it's like all the
Oh,
the cliche iconic
and-
bits of Indy are within the first 7 minutes of this movie.
There's also, as soon as he gets out with the idol,
All the
he's
guys are there,
immediately
just
got
take
a
it.
bunch of weapons pointed on him, and that happens every single time he exits anything ever in all of these movies. There's always an army waiting for him.
And the best part of this, as I showed Kyle last night, is the 1993, I think it's 93, recreation, sort of this original scene in Godzilla vs. Mothra, when it's Japanese Indiana Jones, and he goes through the same exact perils almost, and the second he gets out of, like, the whole temple collapses in on itself, and the second he climbs out, there's the guards ready to take him away.
Wow.
I was hoping he'd have a little white kid sidekick. It's supposed to be
He has
like,
Right.
There's a little Japanese girl sidekick halfway through the film.
that's not good enough.
I know. It's not the same.
Is there anything you guys didn't like about this movie? I can tell you as a kid, I liked Indiana Jones,
But I didn't love it.
but it just like blended together. Like I didn't know what the hell was happening at any point. It was just like fun action scenes for me, but I never paid attention to what was happening. So watching them this time around, I can tell you I am much more of an Indiana Jones fan now than I ever was before, because I actually got really into these movies.
I don't know. I don't really get into these movies. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just like
This is
I don't
not
know
your
what
genre.
it isn't. I just don't get into these kind of films that much.
Because I was watching these and I was getting some like mad James Bond vibes, and I was like, fuck yeah, I love this.
Mm-hmm.
Made me really want to watch James Bond, actually.
Not to say that I don't like this movie. It's just that, like, I don't know. It's just not my kind of film.
Yeah.
I thought it was good though.
What about you guys?
I liked it.
Anything that didn't work?
There's nothing specifically that I think of that just didn't work. Like when I talk about the green screen, I'm not talking about it taking me out of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's just like, wow, this is old.
It does. It just makes you realize you're like, this is an older movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're doing what they can, but there's just they didn't have that technology.
Yeah. This was really just at the like point where visual effects were starting to be a thing. It was always practical up until right around this area when they started using like CG to do. It was mostly just backgrounds that they did. And there's a couple points in the second and third one that it's very visible when they're using the blue screen background, but I don't really picture anything in this movie that I thought didn't work. I know they did a lot of good practical effects for sure. But
There was, you could tell the obvious green screen when they were digging and they had the storm coming in.
oh yes, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like a really bad looking storm. It was like, there's a storm. And then there was like lightning that you could tell was just like a strobe light on the
Right,
side. And
yeah.
I was like, okay, I guess.
That's true. Yeah, that definitely didn't impact me as much as...
No, it didn't take me out of the
other
movie.
points,
Right.
but
I was just like, oh, okay.
Alright, fair point. Fuck it, did you piddle?
Yeah. There's one thing I caught. So when I was watching this, I was at my mom's and we were watching it, and we thought a fly landed on the TV. It's the RPG scene where Indiana Jones is pointing the RPG at the German guys in Ark and Marion, and they're all sitting there, and the fly lands on the main German guy's mouth, and he eats it.
Hell yeah.
And he stays in character, and it's awesome. I was just like, oh my gosh, he stayed in character when a big ass fly lands on him and goes in his mouth. Nothing. I was like, good for him. What an actor.
I pottied for this one.
Okay.
I pottied. Good.
Just a little bit, though. It wasn't like a full urination. I just had a little bit in my tank. I sat down to take a shit, and the little
that little drop, yeah,
came
dude.
out. That's what happened.
Nice.
Turk's like, for the first half.
What'd you guys do?
I piddled a normal piddle.
Yeah, me too.
Yep, that's
All
where I'm
right,
at
right.
as well.
All right. Now on to the second movie, which is titled Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Oh, did we decide that the first one's only called Raiders of the Lost Ark?
It is only called Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Even
Everywhere
on the
you look, you really will never
IMDb.
see Indiana Jones is not above the movie ever. It's just Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Pretty sure Netflix had it labeled as Indiana
I
Jones.
think it did.
Netflix does, but they're also just silly bitches that don't know what up.
I was gonna say, because I watched it on Netflix and it was called Indiana Jones.
Yeah. I think they just do that so it's easier to search for.
Yes,
All
I
right.
can confirm that it is Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark on Netflix.
I think they probably just did that so everyone would know, like,
I think it's just for
Yeah.
when you search it.
Although we
All you have to do
So
is
it's
type
more
Indiana.
the
clarifying.
thumbnail image they use is like the least iconic shot of Indy you can think of.
Yeah.
It's like a weird image of him in a toga or whatever that is.
It's the part where he's putting down the big talisman and the sunbeam comes in and it shines the light to show you where the ark is.
Yeah, that's a weird image for them to be like, we need that one. Not him in his hat, and that everyone would go, oh, that's Indiana Jones.
right.
Also, I think it takes quite a while in this movie, or in the first movie, for them to finally name drop him.
To call him Indy?
Like, the first time anyone
Oh,
says
it's-
his full name is Marion, and she says it twice in the bar.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, but it takes
Because they just call him Dr. Jones for most of it.
because they call him Dr. Jones for the whole time. Fun fact. I
Okay.
noticed.
Alright, Temple of Doom.
I'll give
Indiana
you-
Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Indiana Jones
Sorry,
and the
I
Temple
didn't
of
want to confuse anyone. There
I'll
might
give
be
you-
another movie just called Temple of Doom out there. We're not talking about
Or maybe
that.
a movie just called Indiana Jones.
Probably.
Weird. Think about that one.
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. The story goes, Indiana Jones and Willie, they start out in
Oh, it's like the show tune beginning.
it's some Asian place.
Yeah, that's like the whole
Shanghai
dancing
or something?
montage.
Yeah,
Is it
something like
Shanghai?
that. Shanghai sounds
I
right.
don't remember. Well, okay, one thing. Did you... So, I don't remember them telling us what year the first one took place in.
It's
1930.
7 or something like
was
that,
8.
I thought.
It was in
I
the
looked it up
30s.
because I wanted to see
They
if
have a title card at the start of the
1936 is the first
movie.
one.
It takes a while for the title card to show up, but it is in.
And then the second one takes place...
also in the 30s.
Yeah, it's a prequel to the first one.
1935.
It's a prequel.
Yes,
The first one.
this one takes place in 1935.
But we
What's
were...
the first one take place?
1936.
36. Interesting.
Was a year
I was
later.
talking about it with Megan because we were trying to, because we didn't see what year it was. We were trying to decide what year it was in because it seemed like it was later than that. But we were like, "There's no way there were Nazis in the '80s."
No, yeah.
So we were like, "What year was this?"
As a
And-
kid, never knew that this took place in the past. I always thought it was just like a secret group of still Nazis.
Yeah, well,
It was like Hydra. It was just still a thing that like in modern day.
and this
Nazis
it's
were
still
showing
like
up,
36 and 35 are right before like the big like World War II.
Yeah.
So there were Nazis, but we're not talking about World War II yet.
Right.
So
Yeah. So
Which
it
is-
shocked me when I watched these, and I was like, "This is like a fucking old ass
Yeah.
like time period." I had no idea.
I didn't even think about it that hard as a kid. I just went, oh yeah, the Nazis.
Yeah.
Like, as if they were still...
Well, I mean, they weren't ever really good because they talk about Hitler and everything, but they didn't start the World War
No, I mean-
World War until 4 years after Temple of Doom or 3 years
But I
after.
mean,
they
like,
did
as a
that.
kid, it didn't even strike me that this isn't, like, a current military group that's still out there doing their thing. Like, I just assumed that it was all modern-day stuff.
Yeah,
But I
that's
also
what-
thought it was weird, because I was like, why are they always on horses and whatever? Why don't they just drive normal cars?
I always thought it was just because they were in countries that didn't have cars. I was like, India, they don't even have technology there, so they can't drive.
Well, I mean, when they're in Cairo, like most of the time,
Yeah.
they're not going to drive much in Cairo.
Yeah.
True, they don't drive much in Brendan Fraser's The Mummy, but they do fly planes.
Yeah,
That
there's
movie.
planes. But there were cars in that time, just, not cars as we know it.
Yeah, well,
So.
and it was
Right.
weird watching the movie now, and then there's a scene in the first one when he pulls up in a car, and I was like, a car in an Indiana Jones movie? What? Caught me off guard.
Well, that's an interesting fact. I didn't know that this was a prequel, but
I didn't either, and I looked up and I was like, this is a prequel? What?
Yeah.
And it was,
I wonder why they decided to make it a prequel. Just to confuse people.
Maybe
so
because
that
it
they
wasn't
didn't
the
have to get the
Nazis.
love interest back.
I think maybe it was because the Nazis weren't the main threat, and it was...
That
I don't know.
other group.
Also, technically, Indiana Jones winds up in the war at some point, so there's that. He becomes like a U.S. military guy,
According to the fourth one.
according to the fourth one. So.
Yeah.
Anyways, Temple of Doom starts out in, we'll say, Shanghai, and he's fighting like this gangster group for a diamond. He's trying to get a diamond, and then he's trying to get an antidote because they poisoned him, and a lot of chaos happens. There's a musical number.
I like the whole scene.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun opening. They wind up on a plane. The pilots of the plane are bad guys that ditch the plane, and so it crash lands in India.
Yeah, there's a couple things here, because this is where I noticed a really bad green screen when the plane crashes into the mountain, and they're like rolling down the mountain.
The weird,
But-
like, superimposed explosions behind the characters always looks odd. But yeah.
So that's the first thing that was coming to mind when I was saying that other stuff. But then the other thing is, they get out of the plane with that inflatable raft.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Epic!
what?
Yeah.
You survived that?
Yeah.
It's like...
I definitely was thinking the same thing. I was like, no.
No way.
They'd be,
Yeah.
especially when you watch it. I assume they had, like, dummies in the raft or something.
Mhm. Probably.
Because when they're like, it's basically the three of them are like huddled together, and every time that thing slaps down, it's like their skulls would crush together so
Well,
hard.
and the raft doesn't even fully like inflate until they're like halfway down.
Yeah,
So they're
yeah.
still going like terminal velocity, and then all of a sudden it opens.
Yeah.
Because I remember Mythbusters did a thing where they put like a dummy in those big inflatable hamster balls. They dropped it from a much lower height in a helicopter, and he was like crushed. It's like, no way you'd survive this.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I thought
was
that
like,
exact
nope,
same
nope,
thing.
Nope.
No, that wouldn't happen.
That was bugging me.
I'm gonna go eat and then go to sleep. I thought the second Indiana Jones was good as a kid, and then I haven't watched it in years. That's the review.
Nice.
And the podcast.
Thanks,
right
D-Man.
there.
Fuck out of you.
Maybe I'll come back for the outro. I don't know. I'll come back when we talk about old Indy, because I can be like, hey, remember that one time we all pretended that Kyle was old Indy because he really wanted to be old Indy for whatever reason. That was who he wanted to be.
Right.
No, that wasn't it. It was when we were kids, we would play Indiana Jones, but we all three wanted to be Indiana Jones.
This is Ben 10 all over again.
So I was
Yeah.
leader Indiana Jones. One of you guys was smart Indiana Jones.
Well,
and
I
the
had
other
to be
one,
him. There's no way
the
I
other
was
one
smart
was
Indiana
like
Jones.
the athletic, good with a whip Indiana Jones.
How come I had to be smart Indy? That's so lame.
Because you couldn't do anything else.
And it's because they were like, oh, it's either Dalton smart or Derek smart. And
But
I
I
was like,
think-
Derek.
I could have sworn one of us was young Indy, one of us was old Indy, and one of us was just normal.
No, we were different character traits for Indiana Jones, and I think I was pissed because Dalton actually had the whip.
Yeah, because I went as him for Halloween.
He had the whip and the hat and everything, and Derek and I just had these like little ropes that we would use. That they were like little red ropes.
The red jump ropes.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was our whips. But
Well, you know, when you're a teacher, you don't really need to whip things around in class.
But Crystal Skull hype boys,
Yeah.
we were so fucking jazzed on that movie. We were like,
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
all be indie.
Yes,
Right.
we were. Well, because, like, name another movie where a guy survives a nuke in a fridge. You can't. Automatically.
And he lets you
greatest
know,
movie of
too.
all time. It's like, name another movie where Indiana Jones meets Shia LaBeouf. You can't. So it's like, again, automatic greatest movie ever. Alright.
Hey, before you go, say Ben 10.
Back in the day when we were playing Indiana Jones, we used to also play Ben 10.
Alright, bye.
Back in when Alex says, just like Ben 10. And that way we talked about Ben 10 a lot.
I just had to make sure you got your one reference in.
I actually just do a supercut as the cold open this time of every time someone has said Ben 10 this video, make that.
It's going to be just open. This 2-minute segment right
here.
Well,
yeah, but only put the Ben 10s in.
So every time someone says Ben 10, it's just...
Well, now you're just making it harder for me. Stop fucking saying it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yes, those are the rules.
Bye.
Ben 10.
Did you guys notice that at the beginning of a movie, when they're running out of like the club that they were in, there's another club right next to it called Obi-Wan?
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't notice that. I guess they did hide... Supposedly, they hid a Star Wars gag in all of them. I only know the one in the first one. You said the second one. Mm-hmm. And I know the one in the fourth one was an homage to the one in the first one, where in the first one it was like an Egyptian hieroglyphic of R2 and C-3PO. In that one, in the Mayan temple at the end, the alien temple, there's a stone with C-3PO and R2 etched into it. But...
So then presumably there's one in...
Supposedly, yeah.
Good old Google.
Anyways.
Temple of Doom.
They crash land in India, where they go to a tribe of Indians. And they ask them to retrieve a stone, a sacred stone, and so that's what the movie is about, is Indiana Jones and the hunt for the sacred stone in the Temple of Doom. That was going to be called the Temple of Death. That's the full actual title.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's... I mean, I only mentioned the beginning so that we could explain how they got to India.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the movie is just them hunting for the stone.
Oh, yeah, but importantly, you get to meet Willie and the 11-year-old Chinese boy.
How do you not know his name? Say his name.
11-year-old Chinese boy. That's just what I call
Data.
Short Round.
Yeah,
how do you not know Short Round's name?
I just said Data, so...
They don't say it that often in the... Like, they
I know,
mention him by name and they don't say it anymore.
He's like the only iconic part of this movie was Short Round.
I just like to call him 11-year-old Chinese boy.
Alright.
He's like the best part of this movie.
Yeah, and then there's, an evil cult of Indian guys that use children as slaves. Because they're trying... Okay, so there's 5 stones. They are trying to find... They have 3, they're trying to find the other 2, so they use children to mine.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of whipping involved.
There's a lot of whipping.
Which is why this movie winds up with a PG-13 rating.
Mm-hmm.
It blew my mind when I looked at it. I was like, I would have figured that this would have been the PG one, because I didn't find anything necessarily disturbing about it. But
there was a couple pretty brutal deaths, too, in this one.
I didn't, but they weren't as graphic. In the first one, you got a lot of blood splatter. In this one, there's really only one part that I can think of, and that's when Indy's fighting the guy on the conveyor belt, and he gets sucked under the big roller, and some blood spurts out. That's like the
It doesn't even spurt out. It's just like
on the roller. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
What I think about is when he's fighting the guy in his room, and then he hangs him from the ceiling fan.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty graphic. It's not bloody, but it's like, wow, okay.
Fun fact, in that exact moment, when Harrison Ford flips him over his back, he herniated his back and he had to leave production for six weeks to get it operated on.
Oof.
Yeah.
So actually, that stunt where he's fighting on the conveyor belt was done like 98% with the stunt guy, and only there's like 2 close-up shots of Indy's face when they actually used Harrison Ford when he got back from that operation.
Nice.
My fucking knee is like locking up. It doesn't feel good.
There isn't a Star Wars reference in the third one.
But
there's like several in all of them, except for the third one.
Really?
Raiders, one of the planes says letters on the plane is Obi and then CPO for Obi-Wan and C-3PO. His plane starting sounds like the Millennium Falcon's failing to go into hyperdrive. It's just like sounds.
I caught that one.
I did catch that one too.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was like, that's from Star Wars.
Oh yeah, that's the sound the Millennium Falcon makes when it fails to reach hyperdrive.
You say that, but there are fucking people out there
no, guaranteed. That
goddamn know that, obviously, because they have it written down somewhere.
Yeah, right.
But, like, in other movies, when the sound effect is like that, they'll go, that's the Millennium Falcon sound effect.
The Temple of Doom ones are the Club Obi-Wan. That's that one. Indiana Jones says, "We got company," and that's a reference to Han Solo saying that in Star Wars.
Yes, I caught in the fourth one, there's a scene where he goes, I got a bad feeling about this.
That's one of the ones on the list.
Like,
Nice.
See that? This boy knows some things. I caught one all by myself because it was the most blatant one that they did. They practically handed that one to me, but I don't care. I'm giving myself a point.
Alright.
Good enough. That's enough of them. The other ones were really long.
Yeah, so surprise in the end he gets the stone. I don't know what else to say about
Again,
this.
it's a very action movie,
right?
It's a lot less story.
Yeah.
But as we mentioned before, Willie's just annoying.
Yeah. Do you know she's also Steven Spielberg's wife?
Mm-hmm.
Did not know.
Post movie, like 10 years after the movie came out, they got married. But
I think they were like during Temple of Doom.
hopefully not, because Spielberg was married to someone else during that. But
we may never know.
Dude's a player. You ever seen him? Boy, what a stud.
But a picture of Steven Spielberg.
What works, what doesn't about this one? Oh, the end fight sequence for sure has bad CG.
Yes,
especially when they're falling and it's like
the main cult leader's falling down the cliff and he's like bouncing.
That was the
worst.
Yeah,
oh my gosh,
I got that one for sure.
Some weird cuts when the crocodiles are like ripping apart their clothes, or like he's just fallen, but now all of a sudden all there is a hand and like cloth.
Right. Another fun fact. That scene has the worst special effects in the movie, but also the best special effects in the movie, because it was like the only movie to ever use animatronic dummies for a scene. So when they cut the bridge in half, the dummies on that were rigged to like shake their arms and legs as they fell. And that was like a big deal back then, because no one had ever done that.
I also don't think, it was a very long bridge. When he cut it, I don't know if anybody would have survived that swinging and hitting the side of the cliff. So. Along the same lines of the raft, but maybe not quite as blatant.
I was thinking the same thing, especially the way that they saved themselves was like Indy wraps that rope around his leg. I was like, that shit's going to fucking rip off. Yeah, I was like, no way.
But I don't know, whatever.
Another fun fact about that part. Steven Spielberg and the camera operator both had super bad like fear of heights, and so they wouldn't go out more than like 40 feet onto that huge ass bridge. So all the shots that you see are actually like really close to the side, because they never went out into the middle of it, except for Harrison Ford, who just like was like fuck it and ran all the way across the bridge like without even thinking about it. So there's that. The special effects were really, and Willie were like the only things I didn't like about the movie. Other than that, I actually liked this one more than the first one. This is my favorite Indiana Jones movie.
Really?
Yeah.
This one? Okay.
I feel like as a kid, I also liked this one the most. I just think that the setting is super good. I really like the like visual aesthetic of this movie. The lighting that they use in the actual temple is really cool.
Yeah.
I love that whole like rail cart scene.
Also pretty graphic. I'm gonna say there's some.
There was that one part where they knock the guy onto the track and the other one plows him down and like flips.
They just go flipping.
At that part, I was like, ooh, that didn't feel good.
I know there was something else that they did during that chase scene that was pretty graphic, but I can't remember. It was earlier on. But I remember watching that like last night, and I was like, did they not make like a theme park ride out of this? Cause
dude, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. I was like, you know how much fucking money I would pay to
flowing water?
Are you kidding me? That would be goddamn
lava.
Awesome.
It would work so perfectly.
I thought exact same thought. Yeah, and I know that like places had Indiana Jones rides.
Mm-hmm.
It better have been that.
It was. I actually went on it. It was at Disneyland. It was the Raiders of the Last Ark.
Yeah.
It was the boulder scene that you would like be driving away from the boulder in like a car or something.
I feel like they could at least do like a general Indiana Jones ride where you have like all the major scenes, like the boulder and the minecart scene.
Yeah.
Then maybe a stop in a room of alien skulls. I don't know.
No, let's just skip that part.
No, at the end you have to drink a goblet of some strange liquid.
You have to choose correctly.
You have to choose correctly, otherwise you have to go through the ride again.
They actually like fly in that like tainted water from Mexico, so if you pick the wrong chalice, you get the shits real bad.
Yeah.
It'd be epic. What did you guys think? Because I loved this movie. I thought it was great. I actually I watched it yesterday, and then I watched it again when I was going to bed.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. I really like Short Round a lot. And
Yeah,
Harrison
so
Ford.
much
I
fun.
think
Shortstop?
I think those two are the main reason why I like this movie, is because they're not only their chemistry, but Short Round is funny.
Yeah.
Like I remember almost every time he talked, it was just good.
Yeah.
It was just he's a really good actor.
And
You
you got
got
that
Asian comic relief.
Yeah, you got that dope ass part where he's beating up that other kid.
Right.
And I was expecting him to kill him. I was like, "Was this fucking movie gonna do this?" And then he just burns his stomach, and the tainted curse goes away. And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, the exit is that way." Like, oh, but I want to see.
Listen
Florian kill this
closely.
kid to death. Yeah. He goes from being a real bitch to a real good boy in 2 seconds.
I kind of liked how they made Indy like a bad guy, and they're like, "What are we gonna do?"
There's that real sad part where he strikes Short Round.
Yeah.
That was I was like,
oh no, that's why it's PG-13.
Just that one
Casual
singular
child
moment
abuse.
right there. It was actually just because
It wasn't the slavery necessarily. It was, yeah.
They felt that Harrison Ford's bare chest was too much for most audiences to handle.
It was tough for me. I
They were
gotta
like,
say.
"Bitch is gonna get their seats wet."
It was hard for me to keep
up.
watching with a clean bed.
Yeah.
Fun fact, my parents wouldn't let me watch this one when I was little, when I was a kid.
Yeah, but your parents
Probably
wouldn't
the bare
watch
chest
fucking
Indy.
anything.
Yeah, so they were like...
Dragon Tales? Hell no.
So I watched the first one. I was like, "Oh, this is awesome," and then I watched. They were like, "You're not watching the second one. You can watch the third one though." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "What's wrong with the second one?"
Well, of course your parents would let you watch the third one. It's all about Jesus.
Yeah.
It's not even that family.
No, it wasn't that one?
No.
What?
I'm sure my dad probably would have let me, but they were just like, I think the whole it being the first PG-13 movie, they're like, "Yeah, I'm not letting my kids see this." But
Well,
they also didn't. Alex, if you didn't know, they didn't let me see The Dark Knight when I was a kid either. So
Nice.
That
I
was both
always
sides.
felt so bad. We always tried to sneak Dalton over and watch him with him. We were like, "Hey, dude, we borrowed the Batman movies. You want to come over and watch them?"
You guys are the reason why I've seen so many movies, though. We'd come over and we'd watch them. I'd be like, my parents didn't let me see that.
Right? All right. So what'd you guys think? Did you like it? Did you not like it?
Yeah.
You liked it?
I liked it too.
More or less than the first?
Less for me.
That's fair. I feel like this is the most generally disliked aside from the fourth one.
Yeah.
This one has the lowest score.
I'd
or
agree.
second lowest. It's hard for me to even talk about the fourth one because in my mind it's not part of this. There's the Indiana Jones trilogy and then that other one. So when I say this is the lowest, it's because it's the lowest of the trilogy, the original trilogy.
I don't know, watching it again, I really liked it. Fun fact, this is the only one that I actually own on DVD. I don't own it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
I don't know why. I think maybe when I was a kid, I saw it at the store or something, and I was really into Indiana Jones at the time. They're like, "Mom, we need to get this," and I did or something.
I think that we have Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom on VHS. We have the original trilogy on standard DVD, and then I have the Blu-ray collection of all of them. So I have a couple options on how I can watch them.
Yeah, grab that
Obviously.
VHS player.
Damn right, dude. It's the one I watched it on. the effects look
clean.
about the same. Piddle?
Yeah.
I gave a hefty P for this one.
In
I
my
really
mine
liked
cart.
this. You piddled in your mind. Dude, you have to clean that shit now.
Mm.
Will you just let people back in?
I get like rusty.
That's fucking gross. Does it stink?
No, I'm pretty hydrated.
Okay.
Not as stinky.
Good. That's alright.
I piddled, but a little less than the first one.
Okay.
I don't hold them to like a totally different standard. It's not like that. I liked both of the movies. I just liked the first one a little bit more.
Yeah. That's completely fair. The first one's got just so many like iconic parts to it. This one,
Even though it's
It's
not
kind of
iconic,
glossed
I really
over.
like the bridge scene. Even though it's not like the best, it's like, oh, it's kind of cool.
you know, to me, that's
Big
the
old
most
bridge.
like recognizable Indiana Jones look. Is he's got that really ripped and tattered shirt, and it's like the button up, but it's kind of like a real deep V because it's so ripped into, and
Yeah.
he's still got the hat and the whip and stuff. But for some reason, when I picture Indiana Jones, that's what I picture. I don't normally picture him with his little jacket. But
Well, and I remember the opening scene so much. So
oh, this has the monkey brains part too, where they eat the monkey brains.
Yeah.
I
And then
remember
she's
that.
like, and the Willie's screaming the whole time.
Well, when the monkey brains come out, she passes out. Thank
Mhm.
God.
eyeball soup.
Yes, the eyeball soup.
We forgot to mention the
snakes
monkey
inside of
eating the
snakes.
poisonous date in the first one.
Oh,
The dead
right.
monkey.
And then the guy catches it before Indiana eats it.
Yeah. You forgot the monkey character.
Yeah, that's true.
That was the 11-year-old Chinese boy in the first one.
Yeah, the monkey brain part I remember because I was back in the good old days of Blockbuster. I rented Lego Indiana Jones 2.
Yes, I
on
owned the...
DS.
No, actually, I rented the Lego Indiana Jones ones for either GameCube or Wii.
I had it for DS. And first off, it was fucking epic because there's a mic inside of your DS. And one of the things was that you could actually blow out fire on the game by blowing into the mic, and it blew my mind. I was like, Mom, can I just buy this game? Because that's fucking cool. Check this out.
Yeah.
And it would go out, and she was like, no.
Right.
But there's a part in it that, like, I think you, like, piece together a monkey brain to eat it or something. There's, like, a bit about the monkey brain that I've always remembered that because of that game. So when I saw it in the movie, I was like, oh, this is the one it's from. Now it all gets clicked. I get it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, at a place where I used to get haircuts, Cool Cuts for Kids.
Yup.
They
Heck
had,
yes,
They had
dude.
Lego Indiana Jones as one of the
I
games you could
think
play.
I went there twice, and they gave me really shitty haircuts both times, so we never went
This
back.
boy didn't care because I got to play Need for Speed
My
while they were
parents-
cutting my freaking hair.
I always
They
played Zelda
got
Wind
more like
Waker.
me.
I don't know.
I put the Super Monkey Ball game when they had it there.
That was like in the waiting room, so I played that or Indiana Jones, whichever one was available. But then once you get your haircut, I was like, hit me up with that Need for Speed, boy. A lot of just fun shit in this podcast.
Yeah.
Right.
The official cool cuts for kids.
It was weird because they spelt it all with K's though. I was like, this
Not
is
all
a
of
weird
it.
haircut place.
I thought it was
like,
a
K
C
cut.
cool and then like a K cuts. It was weird.
Just kidding.
Oh.
I was memeing because that would have been the KKK.
Yeah.
Except for the random 4 in the middle.
Yeah, that's true. They just put like it was like in a
KK4,
line. It was like K cool, K cuts, and then they put the 4 on that same line, and then underneath it was
Yeah.
K kids, so that when you looked at it, it was still
Whoa.
It was weird. There was weird flags all over the place.
yeah. No black kids were allowed there either.
Yeah. And there was, I think, my barber always had like an 88 tattoo on. I don't know.
Has this bit gone on long enough?
For real.
All right. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the one that I remembered the least about. Actually, now that I think about it, I did remember one scene from this one as well. I remembered a few Indiana Jones scenes, but not the whole thing as a whole. I remember the end part where it's the he chose poorly, you chose wisely. I remembered that. Other than that, I thought Indiana Jones' dad turned out to be a bad guy in this movie. That's how poorly I remembered this movie. I don't know why. I was just like, Sean Connery's the bad guy. I know it, but he wasn't.
I remember when I was a kid, This one was my favorite. I don't know why.
Really? I couldn't even get to this one. It was like, I'd watch the first two, and then we'd be like, let's pop in the third one, and I'd just kind of zone out for the entire movie. I never paid attention to this. I didn't like this one all that much. Watching it now, I thought it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I said, I get the very James Bond vibe out of these movies, and this one had James Bond in it. Heckin' cool, dude.
I feel like that's like the premise of it. It was just like George Lucas and Spielberg were like, James Bond, but Western.
Yeah, it's like American James Bond.
Yeah, right. No, that American, yeah, that's
and
a better way to put it.
I wish that they would cross over, because James Bond talks, or Indiana Jones talks about working with MI6, which is the organization James Bond's a part of. I'm just saying, guys.
Maybe that's what the new one's going to be about.
James Bond.
The new one, James Bond crossover with Indiana Jones.
Hell yeah. It's probably
Indiana
a comic
Jones is like
series.
80 in his wheelchair.
Yeah. If freaking James Bond can somehow de-age every movie, then, I mean, let's give Indy some credit. Maybe he could.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, the beginning James Bond movies take place in the 60s. He wouldn't be that old in the 60s. He'd be the seasoned vet, but I'm just saying, let's make it happen, Hollywood.
All right.
Last Crusade is about Indiana Jones hunting down the... what do they call it? Come on, Dalton.
Holy shit, how are we all blanking on this? I just said it. I said it before the podcast when we were talking.
Christians.
Yeah, dude, this is all you. This is why we have you. For the one instance we need a Christian reference.
I don't know what it's called. It's like a chalice of something.
I know, but... what the fuck is it?
I'm finna goog this right now.
I'm gonna be so pissed when you guys say it, too. I know... Oh, dude, I almost had it. I'm about to lose it.
Holy Grail.
Holy Grail.
There we go. Holy cow.
Guys, I promise you, I didn't even Google it. The other two were
Yeah, we were looking it up.
I figured it out because I'm a fucking genius.
Yeah, nobody's gonna believe it.
The Holy Grail.
Yes, he's on the hunt for the Holy Grail, but he's actually really on the hunt for his dad, who is lost, because he was on the hunt for the Holy Grail.
And then, yeah, he just kind of gets sucked into it.
This one does have the most story to it,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of like developments between Indy and his dad, and they explore their relationship. You also have a young Indiana Jones flashback at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact, there's a spin-off series about that. The Adventures of Young Indiana Jones.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Didn't care at all about that. I still don't care at all about that.
I literally, when I was looking up the references to Star Wars... That was the one that I saw, and I was like, oh, they did make a spin-off. And That's how I figured out about it.
Yeah. I didn't much like the flashback. I didn't like that he was like a little Boy Scout. I didn't like that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it was, I feel like it was just like, but how else would they have really shown, like, had him there at that time, you know?
Yeah.
And doing that kind of stuff. You know, I feel like it would have been, like, kind of weird if they were just, like, he was just on a vacation and he ran into these guys in a cave. And,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I just thought it was goofy that it was, like this cool-ass Indiana Jones turns out to be a little Cub Scout.
We all start off somewhere, Kyle.
Fair enough. I was in Boy Scouts. I was in Boy
Eagle
Scouts.
Scout.
I didn't make it to Eagle Scout, but I was in Boy Scouts. What? I had things to say.
Holy Grail.
Oh, I don't know. The beginning bit was kind of like Solo, a Star Wars story to me. It was like, check it out. This is how he gets his look. He's copying the guy that he was trying to steal from, and this is the first time he ever uses a whip. The one cool thing was, I guess, Harrison Ford has a scar on his chin. I never noticed it, but in that scene, young Indy whips it, and it cuts his chin, and it's like, that's how he got the scar.
Yeah, I think
I didn't notice.
In some movies they don't mention it, and in some movies he's in, they try to make a backstory about what his scar on his chin is.
Do you know in Star Wars, did they ever say anything about Luke's scars between 5 and 6? because Mark Hamill got in a car accident, and he gets like a big scar under his eye or something.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. I don't think.
Well, he got attacked by in Hoth.
Yeah, that's right. The big Wampa or whatever they
Yeah,
call it.
They probably don't
that's all it is.
explain it, but they
But
probably make
yeah.
you assume that it was something. So.
Mm-hmm.
That just popped into my head because they both had similar stories. But, anyways, it's really just about the like development of the relationship between Indy and his dad. That was the main goal of the movie, was to explore that. Your female lead in this movie is actually like, she's not a Nazi, but she's kind of like a Nazi sympathizer in a way. I don't know how better to describe her, because she like works with the Nazis, but she's against the Nazis.
She's against like what they do.
Yeah.
Like the whole burning the books. She said like how she disagreed with that ideology, but she's also
a Nazi herself.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
Yeah. So I didn't know how to feel about her, because it was like she was supposed to be kind of the romantic lead. She slept with both Joneses. Yeah, I didn't know. I was like, am I supposed to like her? But she's a Nazi, so am I supposed to hate her?
Right.
I didn't get it. What did you guys think of her?
I was the same way. I was just like, she's just kind of there.
Yeah. I mean, she didn't impact things much, but she was... I didn't know what to think of her.
Just took it as it was. I don't know.
This movie has a much goofier tone than the other ones. They definitely like played into the comedy a lot more, especially with his dad. His dad was kind of like almost a Stooge-like character.
Yeah, I'm gonna say ditzy.
Yeah. I liked him. I thought he was fun.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that their relationship was fun. Aside from young Indiana Jones being completely neglected by his dad, that's a little dark, but
Hey.
At the end they come together and they're happy, so it's good. You see Hitler in the movie?
Mm-hmm.
That was fun.
Signs.
I always recognized Hitler when I see him.
As a kid, I did not. I didn't know it. I didn't know what was going on.
I always thought that it's funny that he signs his journal even though they're burning books in the background.
I thought what was going to happen was he was going to walk up and have the thing in his hand, and Hitler was going to like take it and be like, "I will burn this one," and just like yeet it on the fire. But
he just signs it. I was like,
happen.
Okay.
And then let's talk about the end of the movie when he's doing the challenges. What do you guys think of the challenges? Because I thought it was like they were kind of easy. He walks in and all of a sudden he's like, you have to kneel before God, and he like ducks down and these shit ass CG saw blades come out over his head, and he like weaves his way away from him. And then the next one he had to like spell out
his Jesus or God's name.
Yeah,
which like Jehovah.
Jehovah, yeah.
But it starts with an I in Latin.
Yeah. And so he has to like spell that out on the floor, and if he steps on the wrong letter, it like breaks through. I was like, again.
And then the leap of faith was just not really a leap of faith. It was
it was fucking
there's
weird.
the floor, just walk.
Yeah, from a visual like effects standpoint, that's cool, because actually the thing he was walking on really was painted to look exactly like the rest of it. So when it looks like there's nothing there, there really is something there, which to me is cool, but. It still, again, I was like,
I thought
these are the challenges to get to the fucking, like, cup of Christ.
You're like, how did no one get there yet, I felt that too.
Like,
I really liked it, though.
It's not even that hidden. You, like, walk into the thing, you're going down a canyon, and it's a huge, like, building etched into the side of a wall. I'd be like, I'd fucking walk in there, and I don't know, maybe I'd die because I didn't know what was going on, and I'd walk into a bunch of fucking saw blades, but...
Right.
If I was hunting this, it doesn't seem that hard, but the end challenge, it's a cool bit where you have to choose the right cup, and the first guy gets it wrong and like de-ages into death, and Indy gets it right, but he also drinks like eternal water, and then he heals his dad with the eternal water, and I was like, what does that mean?
It's holy water.
But it was like, it's eternal life is the water that they drink, and I was like, how does that work? Because then he's like, if you walk past the seal, it doesn't work all of a sudden. So the only way to live eternally is to stay inside of the place. Well, that sucks ass.
That's why he was like, the night guy was like, that's the burden of immortality is you have to stay here. That's why he was like there still.
Fair enough.
Isn't that kind of what the idea of the Fountain of Youth though? Like you have to like.
There's some like big price you pay or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on what you're watching, I suppose. I guess what works, what doesn't. Another quick and easy rundown.
I enjoyed this movie a lot. This was my favorite one of the trilogy.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I like this one a lot. And not just because it has Christ in it and shit.
I wasn't going to say anything.
But I did really like the story between his dad and him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just like the whole how they had pieced it together. It felt more... It just felt different than the other ones to me. Like how they went in the sewers and then he had the tracing paper and that whole thing. I always thought that was super cool.
He did do a lot more detective work in this one rather than the other ones.
I always thought the library scene was kind of silly though, when he's like hitting the ground, like no one would say anything to him. He's just beating a hole, and it's the freaking like what are those poles called? That
it's just like a velvet rope.
Yeah,
collar. Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way he broke through that thick ass tile on the floor, but still, I thought it was super cool.
Yeah. What did you think of the dad being afraid of rats? That's his thing. Indy's afraid of snakes. His dad's afraid of rats.
I think it's funny.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There was apparently it was like supposed to be the running thing between the three movies was they did a scene where they needed like a shit ton of one animal. In the first movie, they used 9,000 snakes in that scene where he goes into the pit. The part where he's like, snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? You know that?
Mm-hmm.
When he goes down there? 9,000 snakes were used for that. Damn. And then in the next one, it's the part where they're dropping the bugs on Willie, and they used an absurd amount, 7,000 bugs or something like that. And then when they got to this one, they had to themselves breed like 6,000 rats to put down in that sewer.
And then there's a ton of snakes in the flashback scene where you see he's afraid of snakes because he jumps into a big old crate of snakes too.
I forgot that they did that. They really just explained all of Indy's traits, and they were like, it all happened on the train.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, thanks, Solo. Yeah, I mean, I like this movie. I think it's, especially when you're older and you can follow what's happening, because as a kid it just didn't hold my attention. But I liked it a lot. I don't think that this one had the best like visual aesthetic to it. I thought that the Tempel of Doom was really nice, and a lot of the jungle locations they were in the first movie were really nice. Mm-hmm. This one was kind of more deserty, right? And kind of they were in Italy.
It's just like it's more like inside of building.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like it's not as adventurous.
Right. That's
as
a
the
good
other
way
ones.
to put it. That's a good way. Yeah. But yeah, I still like it. It's probably of the original three, it's my third favorite, but it's like a very tight race between the original three, I think, and then a very distant fourth
right.
one. What'd you think, Alex?
Yeah, I know it was good, but I think I'd still put Temple of Doom above.
You'd put Temple above? So yours would just go 1, 2, 3 in order?
I think it might go 2, 1, 3.
2, 1, 3? Alright. So you're with me.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Fuck you, Dalton. No, you also have an original list. It's nice that it's not everyone just being like, Raiders is the best.
Right.
I like that we have a little diversity to it. For this one, I guess I'd piddle. I piddled for this.
Me too.
Yeah, in my chalice.
No.
In the wrong chalice.
It wasn't the right chalice,
Oh, okay.
yeah. It was the wrong chalice.
It wasn't the carpenter's cup.
Yeah, the cup of the carpenter.
Yeah, it was just... I filled up, like, a little bit of the holy water.
Oh, you pissed into the holy water? You fucking bitch.
No one deserves immortality. That's how I see it.
It's the next guy that goes in, he, like, dips it in, and the guy's like, I must warn you, the last guy did piss in that bowl. But it might make me immortal. What do you think that guy did? He was there for, like, 700 years.
Hang out, jerk off.
That's what I was thinking. I was like,
I was like, man, I just masturbate all the time. There's like nothing else to do. Just tug till your dick comes off.
He trained with this sword every day. To switch sword.
Yeah, he didn't put up much of a fight, did he? He's like...
And then he fell backwards.
When Indy comes in, he's like, you must defeat me to get to drink it. And he's like, here's my sword, just fucking vanquish me. I was like, oh man, you really phoned it in there, bud.
Well, how old did he say he was? Like 400 or 700 or something?
Yeah, he said he was there for 700 years, and his two brothers before him were there,
Mm-hmm.
for however long they were there, since Christ put the cup on the thing. I don't know. I don't know how it works.
I don't either.
Alright, well that's Last Crusade. Now we're on to...
Shia
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Let me tell you, when I was a kid, I loved this movie.
I feel like...
I did. It wasn't my favorite, but I still loved it a lot.
I don't know. I was always just kind of a casual Indiana Jones fan, and when this one came out, nothing much changed. I was still just kind of like, Indiana Jones, he's alright.
Right.
But, I still wanted to play as him in games. I thought the character was cool, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know how in love with the movie I was. I also had a very obnoxious friend back then that was very into this movie and really killed my boner for it, entirely. After hanging out with him and how into it he was, and it, got him obsessed with aliens, and I was like, oh, fuck this. I don't want to watch this anymore. Yeah, he fucking killed it for me. Anyways, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. The story is that Indiana Jones and Mutt Williams are on the hunt for their friend who was on the hunt for the Crystal Skull, or trying to return the Crystal Skull. And it's kind of made him insane, and he's no longer, mentally there. And along the way, they're trying to beat the Russians to finding it, because communism, we're in the 50s. We're no longer dealing with Nazis, we're with the communists. And Indiana Jones has a friend who has a name, but I can't remember it. And he's a good guy, but then he's a bad guy. But then he's a good guy, but he's really a bad guy.
I'll be alright.
Yeah, they hunt down the Crystal Skull. They meet Marion on the way. And they get the skull. They return the skull. And fucking aliens show up and they take off. This one is also... Mayans. They're dealing with Mayans, which at the time was kind of a big deal because 2012 was on the horizon and the world was supposed to end because the Mayans didn't complete the calendar past then. So, relevant.
And
this is 2008, right?
2009, I want to say. 8 or 9.
I think,
it was right around there.
Either way, 3 or 4 years before 2012.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched this one last night, and I was not into it. I don't like Shia LaBeouf. I don't like his character. Mutt Williams is a dumb character. I didn't like that he turned out to be Indiana's son with Marion. That was not
See,
fun.
I didn't get to this one, but I remember watching it in theaters as a kid. And as a kid, I didn't mind it. But if you were to ask me the same things now, I would tell you I didn't like Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
Or him being...
I never liked him, mostly because I didn't like Transformers, and he was the Transformers guy.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I was like, nah, I don't need this boy.
See, when I was a kid, I was the opposite. I was like, I love Transformers! Shia LaBeouf!
I hated Marion in this movie. They fucked her character so bad. Because in the first one, she was like a badass.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one, she was a badass, but she was like a ditzy, dumb badass. She was like, she had plans, but she wouldn't tell anybody, and she was just kind of like a quirky goofball through the whole thing. I fucking hated it. To really encapsulate her character in this movie, there's this absolutely dumbass scene where they're on the run from fire ants. There's like a big hive of fire ants that are chasing them and straight devouring people down to where their bones are no longer left. And they're like in this car that's also a boat, and they like get in and they're driving towards the edge of a cliff, and they're like, Marion, turn it around. What are we doing? Why are we going towards the cliff? And she's like, just trust me, I know what I'm doing. And she drives it off and like lands it in a tree, and the tree dips down and like drops them off in the water, and then they fall down like 3 different waterfalls, and she's just like driving along like, yep, I knew that would happen. I was like, fuck this. Are you kidding me? This was so dumb. It was the dumbest scene in the whole movie. Fucking hated it. But they ruined her character because of the way she is in the whole movie. She's not like the strong, independent character. She's like just this like goofy, like scatterbrain. I didn't like it.
What about the fire ants though? Like aside from that.
Oh, the fire ants were fucking lit, dude.
I knew you were gonna say lit. I was like, he's gonna say lit or litty in a second.
Like top 10 Indiana Jones villains, the fire ants are number 1. Get
CGI
real.
fire ants.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, I don't think the communists are as interesting as the Nazis.
A lot of people would disagree.
And so, like, I don't like the whole alien thing. And it's not that Indiana Jones...
does.
I think it was just such a weird turn after
Yeah,
the first 3.
And I mean, there's always been, like, a weird, like, supernatural element to the Indiana Jones. I mean, you have, like, a sacrificial cult that's, like, ripping people's beating hearts out of their chest,
Right.
and they still survive. And magic's been a part of basically all of them. Well, the first 2. The third one's all about, like, literal, like, religion coming to life and stuff. And then you get to this one, and they're just, like, aliens.
Well, see, so you have, like, the real-life crystal skulls.
Yes.
Right.
And I know that it's based in real.
Yeah, so
mythology,
I think the idea was that it's like people are like, oh, the aliens have something to do with these crystal skulls because you find them all over the world and they're all the same or whatever. So then they just decided in this movie to be like, yep, they were aliens.
Yeah, and watching the behind the scenes, it made it a little more okay for me because the way they described it was when they made Indiana Jones, the original trilogy, they set it in the 1930s and they were copying the television style of the 1930s where you had the big like serial action hero, and they were like, that's what Indiana Jones is. We want him to be this like in over his head, almost cowboy, like real hero guy who's always going on these different adventures. And then when they came back, they were like, well, obviously Indiana Jones can't still be in the 1930s. Harrison Ford looks older. He's not this isn't 1937. It hasn't been a year. It's been 20. So they bumped it up to the 1950s, and they were like, well, what was big in television in the 1950s was these big, like, B-budget horror movies, or, like, they're not big, they're obviously small-budget B horror movies. And a lot of them deal with aliens, and the aliens were a representation of communism for the time, and so they were like, there's your Indiana Jones movie, 1950s communism aliens. There you have it. And I was like, yeah, I could see that. That's a concept that makes sense to me. I personally just don't think aliens, like the like little green men aliens, are interesting. Aliens are fine in like Star Wars when they're like full-fledged civilizations and they're not
right,
just
like in Star Trek and stuff. Yeah,
Right.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, so it's just the way the aliens were presented in this. It's uninteresting to me, and for the most part, the movie doesn't look very visually nice to me. It's like
I remember a lot of dark scenes.
yeah, they're dark scenes, and when you watch them back to back, when you watch the original 3 and then this one, it's like all of a sudden you know you're in a new like decade of filmmaking. It doesn't feel like it doesn't fit. And
Right.
so I have an issue with that. Like, I don't love the new Star Wars movies, but what they do right is they make it look like 70s Star Wars. I think that they do a fantastic job recreating the old Star Wars stuff. I don't think Indiana Jones did a very good job making me feel like I was still watching Indiana Jones. This was like a new thing to me.
Right.
Story was too overly complicated. There is like his friend being a double agent that wasn't a double agent that was a double agent. It was like, that was dumb. And Mutt Williams being added to the story was dumb. And the search for their friend was okay. And like his story arc was okay. But yeah, overall, this movie just really doesn't work for me. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's got, a few redeeming bits to it, I suppose. But
I do agree.
yeah, overall, I don't like it. I do think that the quote Kingdom of the Crystal Skull being the big underground Mayan civilization, that looks super cool. I really like all of the imagery that they used with that, but Yeah, that's really the only redeeming thing for me in this movie is the last 20 minutes visually are very nice.
I'd agree. I feel like they just try to cram a ton of new things into one movie.
It's not new.
Exactly.
It's the characters you know and love, except totally different.
Yeah, and I just feel like they try to cram it all together, and it was just a lot.
And young Kyle is kicking me right now going, the fucking nuke scene was lit, dude.
Right?
It wasn't. It's dumb. And immediately afterwards, Indiana Jones like, I just survived the fucking nuclear blast, dudes. What do you want from me? Like, fuck this. So.
Have you guys seen Dan Aykroyd's vodka?
I haven't. Did you know Dan Aykroyd was in Indiana Jones 2?
No, but that would explain why he modeled his vodka after the crystal skulls.
Really? Is that
not
what
the
it's
Indiana
like?
Jones ones specifically, but the real life ones.
Okay.
Yeah, you should watch that JonTron video that he does where he covers Dan Aykroyd's vodka.
You've mentioned it. Funny. I've meant to watch it. I just haven't.
It's pretty funny.
Searched it up.
Dan
if
Aykroyd
you send it to me, I will definitely watch it.
Dan Aykroyd is something else.
Yeah, he's the dude.
He is something else. He's just trying to stay relevant.
Yeah, that's why he keeps pushing these fucking Ghostbusters movies. Stop. Enough. I don't want it.
Dan Aykroyd, you just retire.
It's time to stop. Dan Aykroyd.
You're
for
gonna
making
make
more
cheap vodka. And
make as much shitty vodka as you want. Leave fucking Ghostbusters alone. Stop.
Get some help.
Indiana Jones 4. Did not piddle. I was dry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Well, that leaves us with one thing, boys.
What's that?
Is Indiana Jones the best franchise ever? Better than Marvel Phase 1?
I say no.
You say no?
I say no.
Alright.
Kyle, what do you say?
Initially, I was gonna say no, but I don't know. After watching them,
it's very close.
Really taken with those first 3 movies. I literally, as soon as I was done watching them, I watched the special features and I was like, you know what I should do? Watch them again. I was really into them, and it might just be because they're fairly new to me. I don't think I've watched them since 2009 when the last one came out. I don't think I've watched any of them, so at this moment in time, I'm going to say yes, Indiana Jones, I do think beat MCU. I think at the moment I would rather watch Indiana Jones over the first phase of MCU.
See, for me, I'm not a big fan on the origin story superhero movies anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of overdone and not fun to watch anymore. So that's why I would want to say that Indiana Jones is better.
All right. Well, because Derek didn't buckle down and watch them, unfortunately, Dalton, you've been beat.
I've been beaten.
For now.
But we're only talking about the first part of the MCU.
Yes,
exactly.
Phase 1 is gone.
Phase 1 is gone. Look at Indy. He's wearing a crown on top of his hat. What are you doing, bro?
Is there going to be an image?
There it is.
What are you doing, bro?
Alright, well, that is going to do it for this week's episode of the Extremely Low Budget Podcast. Thanks for tuning in and listening to our thoughts on the Indiana Jones franchise.
What questions do we have for you? That is, do you like Indiana Jones?
What do you think of the Indiana Jones movies? Is Indiana Jones better than Marvel Phase 1? Derek's going to be real pissed when he finds out that we voted for this.
What was that really bad racial slur that I said earlier?
Dalton, what the fuck am I looking at on screen right now?
On this side...
That's Indiana Jones with the crown.
Still? Go away, Indy. We're fucking done.
Get out of here.
Go. We're trying to outro.
You're still here? The movie's over. On this side, previous episodes of the Extremely Low Budget Podcast. And on the other side is all of the videos.
The playlist.
The playlist.
The playlist of all the videos.
And in the middle, Alex, the fuck?
That's a subscribe button, baby.
I can't wait to hear that when I'm editing.
That could be the cold open.
Alright, thanks for listening, everyone.